what we are going to look at today is, if you want to get into business, then what is the most important business skill required? I don't know what your thoughts are when this question comes to you, but let us see what the rich dad has to say. So basically, this entire section I have taken it out of the book called The Business School by Robert Kiyosaki. And if you have read any of Robert Kiyosaki's books, many parts of Robert Kiyosaki's books are all kind of conversations that he's had with Rich Dad. So there are insights that he's gained, and it is typically in the form of conversation. And this section of the book is also in that form. So to give a background, in case there are some of you who have not heard of Rich Dad, who don't know about the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So Rich Dad is actually the father of Robert Kiyosaki's friend, whose name is Mike. It's right from childhood. Robert Kiyosaki was born in Hawaii. So this entire initial setting of his life and many years of his life happened in Hawaii only. So Rich Dad is the father of Robert Kiyosaki's friend, whose name is Mike, and the Rich Dad is an entrepreneur, whereas Poor Dad is Robert Kiyosaki's own father, biological father. And although he's called him Poor Dad, his father was the head of the Department of Education in Hawaii. That means he is a very, very well qualified person. Okay, and a professor and in a senior position. But notwithstanding that, Robert Kiyosaki refers to him as the poor dad. And so if you read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, you will get a sense of why he talks like this. And basically, if you have not read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I want to invite all of you to somehow, you can actually buy the book, or you can get, find online copies, or there are online audiobooks available. Do listen to it. So basically, the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book introduces the experiences with his rich dad in the initial years, school days, and thereafter. There are certain aspects that he introduces. So one of the key things that is spoken about in the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book is this concept of the cash flow quadrant. Okay, so what is this cash flow quadrant? Robert Kiyosaki, this is actually Rich Dad's concept, that he divides all the people in the world into 4 categories, 4 boxes. So the one box is the employee, the top left. The bottom left is the self-employed. Right side is the business owner on the top, and the right bottom is the investor. We will have a separate session on this whole concept of this, the cash flow quadrant. But the important thing to understand is this, that all the people who are on the left side of the quadrant, that is the employees and the self-employed, are in, what you can say as, they are active income. That means today, if they work, income is generated. Today, if you don't work, there is no income. The people on the right side, that is the business owner and the investor, they are in a state where they have set up systems so that whether they work or don't work, the business will run or the investment will make more money. So the right side is passive income and left side is active income. Now, this is the background. So with this background, let us look at Robert Kiyosaki is just in 1974, just discharged from the US Marines as a pilot. Okay, so initial years he spent with Mike, and there are some bit of learning that happened as a young boy with his rich dad. Thereafter, as per his father's recommendation, that is poor dad and rich dad's recommendation, he joins the US Marines, and in 1974 he gets discharged. He sees, actually Robert Kiyosaki has fought the Vietnam War also, and after his discharge, he looks at, okay, now what are the options for me? What next? And at that stage, he realizes that if he has to choose the E quadrant, that is the employee quadrant, there are 2 options for him. One, because he's already trained as a pilot, he can get a job as a civilian pilot. And second, before he became a pilot, after his education, he had trained to become a ship's officer, sailing ships for a oil company. So he says that is the second option. But having been influenced by Rich Dad, his heart was to follow in his Rich Dad's footsteps. That is, become a business owner. That was his passion rather than an employee. So this is the background of the situation where we are starting. So at this stage, he goes to Rich Dad after he's discharged and asks Rich Dad that I want to train to join him in the B quadrant. That is the business quadrant. That is the top right. So this is the conversation. So Robert Kiyosaki, case Kiyosaki. So Robert Kiyosaki. So he's asking Rich Dad, what kind of training do I need? Rich Dad tells him, go and get a job in sales. Okay. Now, Robert Kiyosaki, sales, I want to go into the B quadrant. I don't want to go into sales. Rich Dad, I just told you what to do next. If you don't want to do what I recommend, then just get out of my office. Okay. So at this point, Robert Kiyosaki starts a conversation asking him, why is it that I need to learn how to sell? And the rest of what we are going to look today is the insights from Rich Dad about why sales. And the reason I have chosen this topic today is, according to Rich Dad, the ability to sell is the number one skill in business. The number one skill that is required. So, see, all of us have this hesitation that, oh my God, sales. There is at least I had it, that, you look down upon somebody who's in sales and you think that, oh, we are doing some, whatever work we are doing, or we are trained, we are an engineer or a doctor or whatever qualification we have, and we feel that this is a better thing than sales. So I want you to look at what we are going to do, go through today, and get a completely different perspective. So according to Rich Dad, the ability to sell is the most important skill of the B quadrant. That means if you want to enter the B quadrant, you have to have an incredible ability to sell. If you cannot sell, this is what Rich Dad has to say. If you cannot sell, don't even bother thinking about becoming a business owner. You understand how important the emphasis is on selling. Now, just look at it. The fact is, we are actually selling every day, whether we realize it or don't realize it. In so many ways, it's happening. For example, when you just write to somebody, there is something that you're writing a letter, you're writing something to somebody. There is a certain communication happening in a certain way. You're trying to influence that person. As we speak to someone, one-on-one or telephone and all that, there is a certain influencing that we're trying to do. Just look at this. How many times have we done this with our children? When you speak to a child and you tell the child to put his or her toys away, okay? The conversation that we have is actually getting them to take an action, convincing them and getting them to take an action. In other words, we are doing a selling of this idea, put your toys away idea to your child. School teachers are doing it all the time, okay? All our school teachers were trying to sell this whole thing to us about whatever subject they are teaching, why it is the most important subject and why it is so interesting. And they're trying to inspire you to learn, like the subject and learn the subject. Just look back. All this has been happening all our life. Remember, another angle, very different angle. The best salespeople are also the best leaders. Or if you want to look at it conversely, the best leaders are also best salespeople. Think of the best leaders who have inspired people. We can think of so many of these presidents of USA, or so many right now, presently Narendra Modi, or so many of these illustrious politicians whom we have had. The ex-president of USA, Robert Kennedy, Mahatma Gandhi, one shining example. Okay, can you imagine what it would have taken for him to inspire a whole nation to do a certain thing or take us a move in a certain direction? What a powerful sales thing he has done. Mother Teresa, amount of people she's inspired. Christ, okay, some of these, the biggest of these, Gautam Buddha. We don't look at them as salesperson in the conventional sense, but the point is that they have managed to inspire thousands, tens of thousands, and millions of people, right? So there are so many such examples, and they were all great teachers. And which means if you are a great teacher, you are a great salesperson. In other words, you are able to inspire somebody to take a certain kind of action. Being better at sales means you are more successful in life. Just look at it. People who are least successful in life are people whom nobody wants to listen to. You just think of, somebody whom you think, I mean, you don't think very much of, you don't give them a serious thought, you don't give them a serious hearing. Typically, people like this are not very successful in life and nobody wants to listen to them. So Robert Kiyosaki's question is this: can anyone be good in sales? That is the question. Now, here's the interesting thing. We are all born salespeople. What do I mean by this? Or what did Rich Dad mean by this? Just watch a baby or a young child, right? If they are hungry and they don't get what they want, what do? Just think over this. Why we are born salespeople? When a child cries, he or she is communicating, okay? Just pushing the point across that this is what I want. In other words, the child is selling this whole requirement of his or her to us. Just try telling a child no to something. A young child, you say that, no, I'm not going to give you this. No, the child will say, I want to buy this particular toy from this place, or I want to eat this particular thing. You say no. What will happen next? If the father says no, they will go to the mother, right? If the mother says no, then they will call up grandparents. Look at how the child persists in getting what the child wants. And this is a whole process of trying to somehow sell their requirement or their idea or what they want to somebody who will listen to them. Unfortunately, as we grow older, we learn to stop selling. Just remember, we are, as a child, I want you, all of you, to look back into your childhood. In your childhood years, in your younger years, whatever you remember, how many times have you done this kind of thing? And you just look back at your own children. How many times your children have done this to you? That somehow they are selling this as something they want, they just sell the idea to you, right? And how at some point or the other, you or through somebody else, you have fallen for it and given in, right? But unfortunately, as we grow, we stop this whole process of learning, we stop. In other words, we learn to stop selling. And why is that so? We lose this I can have anything I want attitude. Look at the child's attitude. The child does not think that it is not possible. It's impossible for me, I cannot get it. Child will try this way, that way, somehow I can have whatever I want. That is the attitude with which the child is going. Unfortunately, as we grow up, we lose this attitude. And why are we losing this attitude? Because our parents or teachers or people who are in our life of influence, yes, position of influence, they keep telling us this: stop nagging, stop complaining, stop being a pest. Okay, actually, there is much more that happens. If all of you, those of you who can recollect the series that we did of Brian Tracy on how to build a powerful personality, if you can go back to that playlist, it is there on Way to Wellness YouTube channel. There is much more to this, and these things stop us from being our natural sense. In other words, our natural ability to sell, or our natural ability to just be ourselves, to express ourselves, to be fearless, to be unstoppable. All these are destroyed in the process of our growing up. So continuously we are told, stop nagging, stop complaining, stop being a pest. And so in that process, we learn to stop selling. And thereafter, we say, oh, no, this is not for me. We will come to that later in this presentation. So at the age of 30 years, that means when Rich Dad reached the age of 30, he realized, what did he realize? At the age of 30, he's realizing this, that he was falling behind in life, right? That he lacked something. There is something in his life that he is lacking. Working harder and harder is not working. It is not giving him the solutions. It's not giving him the results. If he did not make changes now, he may end up with an empty life. These are all realizations that he's having. What else? So it dawned on him that, in effect, why he's facing all these problems is that he did not know how to communicate with people. So effectively, what was happening? His employees did not listen to him. That means if he is asking his employee to do X, they will go and do Y, right? His customers did not understand him and did not respond the way he wanted them to respond. Even though he has explained to them why the product that he is trying to sell to them is so fantastic and better, they will go and buy it from someone else. So what else? He was awkward talking to strangers, right? He was boring at parties. He's so uninteresting. In a party, there is no way he can have a conversation with people, right? What he want when he whatever he actually wanted to say was not what is being said, right? In other words, his communication skills were very poor. So what he realized is this, that if I want to be successful in business, I have to learn to sell. The second thing he realized is that he needed to learn to be a better communicator. He needs to come out of his shell, and he has to learn to stop being afraid of people, right? In other words, he had to relearn what he already knew once as a child. As we saw before this, a child is, all these things are naturally present in a child, they are like powerful at selling whatever they want. They are somehow they will want to communicate. You see, they don't hesitate about communicating. Language and all that, poor language, grammar and all, nothing stops them, right? So he realized that he has to go back to how he was as a child. Now there is a very important thing. Just look at, now that is one side. Now let us look at another angle. Where is this buy sell? Where are these things coming? Look at the stock market. Look at the real estate. Every stock market conversation and every real estate conversation is a buy sell agreement. It's all a conversation of buying and selling, right? You take, it's not just stock market and real estate. You take any market or any business. It only runs on buyers and sellers. Please understand this clearly. Whatever we look around, whatever we are seeing around, there is sales happening at every level of our life. No buyers means no business. So you have to be continuously selling. If you are in the world of business, you have to be continuously selling, right? Remember that selling is actually more than getting somebody to just give you money. It's not just about a money transaction. As we have seen, even a child is doing it. Child is not trying to extract money out of you, right? Child is trying to just achieve an end that the child wants. So there is actually more to selling than just a transaction of money. Any typical business will have buy and sell in many ways, even within a business. It is not that there is selling means a money transaction. For example, the conversations that are there between employees and employers. When an employee is trying to negotiate something with the employer, or the employer is trying to negotiate a certain position with the employee, it is a selling transaction that's happening. When you are trying to sell your idea to the investor, when you want to go and influence an investor and have them to invest in your business, what is it that you're doing? You're selling the whole possibility to the investor so that he will put his money into it. Any kind of advertising that we see anywhere is actually a form of selling. Now, here's the interesting thing. You can buy only as much as you can sell. That means I'm sure all of us can kind of visualize this, but let's look at it in detail. People who are poor, or the poor, whoever it is, who's poor, is because either they have nothing to sell or they don't have the skill to sell. Okay, now it can be people, it can be even nations. You look at it, the whole range. Even a nation which is poor, they don't have the necessary stuff that they can sell. They don't have the necessary influence to sell it to somebody. Just think of it. You may be extremely talented, but you will always struggle if you do not know how to sell your talent. If you do not know how to position your talent in the eyes of somebody else, you will always be struggling in life. A business may have lots of inventory, they have stock, they have everything available, but the business will fail if they do not sell, right? So before you reach a point where you can buy something, there has to be a selling. Selling affects every aspect of our life. How? We may be extremely skilled and capable, but we will get a job only when the interviewer buys into our capability. You think of what is it that we do when we go for a job interview. At a job interview, we are actually just selling our capability, our skills. We are trying to sell the idea to them, saying that I am the best person you can hire. Is that not what we are doing? Selling is happening. See, the point is, Selling is happening at every aspect of our life. It's just that we do not recognize it and we look down upon sales. If any manager, anybody who is inside the corporate world, if he wants to climb up the corporate ladder, if he wants to do better, he needs to be able to communicate his capability to his boss and the management. Anybody who is unable to do this effectively cannot climb up the corporate ladder. Just think of it. How many men and women do not find their partners in their life simply because they are not able to communicate what a wonderful person they are? Just think of this. When a boy asks a girl out on a date, he is actually selling this idea to her. The world is full of lonely people or poor people only because of these reasons. Why? They don't know, they were never taught how to sell, one. They were never taught how to communicate, and they were never taught how to overcome their fear of rejection. Once you try to do something, there will be rejection. How do you handle that rejection? Nobody taught them. Because of this, and after being rejected, how do you stand up again? Nobody taught you. So today, if there are people who are unsuccessful, if there are people who are lonely, it is because they do not know how to sell whatever is that they have. It's not about a product or a service or anything. It's just the kind of person they are, to be able to position that in somebody's eyes, to be able to communicate effectively, to be able to overcome first the fear of rejection itself. Oh my God, what will happen? How to overcome that? And when you get rejected, if you get rejected, to stand up again. Nobody taught us all this, right? So what I'm trying to say is that selling affects every aspect of our life. Just look back. Why did Rich Dad become rich? Okay. When Robert and Mike were very young at school, right? That is Mike's father, who's the rich dad. He spent a big sum of money to take a 1-week course in Honolulu, which is the capital of Hawaii. Okay. He went to Honolulu for 1 week and took a 1-week course in sales. Now, when poor dad, that is Robert's father, he heard of rich dad spending so much money and going to, for a sales course, he felt that what a fool he is, wasting his money. Why? Because a sales course will not give you a degree. It will not give you college credits. That is the perception that he had. But today, rich dad has more selling skills and he has more money, whereas poor dad just has college credits and degrees. See, that is the power that your ability to sell or building the skill to sell makes. And remember, it's not just about selling a particular thing. It is every area of our life it is impacting, right? Everyone is selling something. In a job that you're interviewing, you're selling your professional services for a paycheck. That means in exchange for the paycheck, you're selling your whatever skill you have, you're selling that. Look at anything and everything that you have in your home and in your life. TV, fridge, blender, mobile, you name it. Everything is there because someone sold it to you. The only other option is you stole it, right? Otherwise, it has been sold to you. Great salespeople are there all around us. Just think of it. Politicians who win elections are very, very powerful salespeople. They are able to move whole masses. Religious leaders or teachers, or school teachers, or even big religious leaders. You take Sadhguru as an example. Okay, very, very powerful salesperson. Just look at how he can implant an idea into your mind and make you, follow it. Children all around us, they are born salespeople. Everywhere around us, there is sales happening at every level of our life. Right. Now, remember, to be successful, we have to learn how to sell. I hope I'm able to summarize the whole thing well. If you want to be successful in life, you have to learn how to sell. The better at selling that you are, the wealthier you will be. If you want to buy anything, you first have to sell something, right? If you can buy only as much as you can sell, to the extent that you are able to sell well, whether it is your skill, whatever it is, you are able to sell well, you will have the power to buy. So remember, We are all born salespeople. It is there from our birth. It is time to revisit it and rekindle it in our life. But I'm terrified of selling. Is that not a reality that many of us experience? This is the statement that Robert Kiyosaki told his rich dad. I am terrified of selling. The fact is, most people are terrified of selling. Most people are terrified of rejection. And unfortunately, what happens is, rather than admit that I am terrified of selling and I am terrified of rejection, what do? We look down upon other salespeople. We say, oh, sales, oh, that's something not for me. You know, I'm not a salesperson. I'm an educated professional, right? We cloak whatever we are doing and whatever we have away from the fact is that we are selling our skills and doing everything sales is happening, but we don't realize it. And just pretend that the act of selling is below our it's not my standard. It's like below me to go to sales. The fact is that we are actually terrified of selling and we are terrified of rejection. So typically, such people who have this attitude also have poor personal success, and or they may have failure in relationships. This is unfortunate. That is, unless you are willing to see, the whole thing about selling is building your communication skills. The more you build that skill, the more powerful a communicator you are, the better things will happen in your life. Please understand this. Most people who cannot sell will actually live below their means. They will shop only when there is a sale, right? And they will live frugally, cut corners, and they will also have justifications for it, saying that, oh no, having more money means they'll have stories about why money is not good and whatever else. But the fact is that they are afraid to go out and position themselves in the world. They are afraid to face the world. They are afraid to sell. Fear and lack of selling skills is what is keeping people poor. Remember this. So the number one B quadrant skill, your ability to sell, is the number one B quadrant skill. And successful people learn to overcome their fears rather than let their fears run their life. And this is a reminder I want to give all of you. Please learn to overcome your fears. If you're afraid of sales, learn to overcome that fear rather than let that fear run your life. Don't do that. So, Rich Dad, he asks, that is why selling is the most important skill. Are you now ready to learn how to sell? This is the end of the conversation between Rich Dad and Robert Kiyosaki. And after this, Robert Kiyosaki took Rich Dad's advice and he took a job in Xerox Corporation as a salesperson. And 4 years, he had an incredible, that is another story by itself, an incredible journey in sales. First, he was a utter failure. For the first, I think 1 or 2 years, he was an utter failure. And then he became the topmost salesperson in the whole of US in Xerox. Can you imagine that? Okay. And when he reached that point, when he had become absolutely the topmost, he realized that he does not have much more to learn from the sales job. And after that, he quit it. So till that time, he actively put himself in a learning process in sales. So that was the whole thing I wanted to share with you. Thank you very much. And remember that there is going to be one more session there is a part 2 to this. Whatever we spoke about, this is only half the story. There is another half of the story on your most important business skill. There is another part to it. So keep a watch out for it. Do join in. Thank you.